morning. Amazing that you're all here this morning. Thanks for having me. Thank you for your speech earlier. I really, truly hope BMW makes all happen. I personally don't even own a driver's license, so I really need autonomous cars to make it happen. Otherwise, it's difficult for me to get from one point to the other. So I would like to talk about doing more acts and less ads. My name is Polle de Maagt. I try to change companies to do less advertising and do more stuff. Like the introduction said, I worked for a range of companies the last couple of years, ranging from Nike, KLM, Ikea, even Legos. And some of these clients will be featured later in this presentation. But before I start, I need a bit of your help. I work for a lot of these large brands, and that means I'm not home too much. And the problem is, I have a small daughter. She's 3 years old. She's called Ella. And she loves books. She loves drawing. But the thing she loves most, and this is a true story, is Mexican waves. So I had to promise her at some point. She was browsing through her iPad, and she saw people doing like this. And she kept looking at it, and then you come into the YouTube algorithm, so she keeps looking at these Mexican waves. So I had to promise her every time when I go abroad to another country, I have to ask the audience to do a Mexican wave. And this morning, you are that audience. And it really depends from country to country and city to city how well they're doing a Mexican wave. But as you had Oktoberfest earlier this month, I have tremendous trust in you as an audience. So what I will do, for the people who do not know what is a Mexican wave, I will count from 3 to 1 and then do this, and then you all will start at the front and go all to the back. I will rehearse it once, and then we go to the live version because I only have 30 minutes to do this presentation. So, are you ready? Yes. Okay. Yes, ready? 3, 2, 1, yes. Okay, so I don't want to make myself too unpopular so early on in my presentation, but it was okay. So, several things. I think we can do better and we can do it louder. So, I will take my cam because we really have to get going into my presentation. 1 second, go into video. So, 3, 2, 1. This was honestly, truly the best Mexican wave I had this year, so thank you so much. So secondly, what an amazing conference, and I truly have the feeling that this might be one of the best conferences, at least I will be attending this year. I think we had 2 amazing opening speakers. If we're just looking at what the other speakers are today, and also just in general, that we as people, as a team, are looking at how we can improve what we're doing towards customers. I think it's an amazing premise for today. I met Mark yesterday. He is the other guy wearing a 3-piece, but he has a better looking 3-piece and he wears it better than me. I'm not sure where you are, Mark. Respect for that, you will notice him later on. He told me about the Fleet Lights case. It's amazing, it's mind-blowing. Please, please, please attend this presentation. Furthermore, Andrew, are you here in the room somewhere? No, not yet. So this is a case that will be presented later today. This is the KLM Flight Lights, and it's my daughter's favorite brand utility ever. It counts down the nights until I get home, and so it's next to her bed, and she's watching, and she now knows it's only one night till I return tomorrow. So it's an amazing case, and you will see it later today. Then the question is, so why is this all so important? This is a research that was done not too long ago, and it says that 80% of the CEOs does not really trust and are not very impressed by the work done by marketeers. So pretty much our bosses think we're idiots. And that either can be because they don't understand marketing and they don't understand us and consumers, or maybe they're a bit right and we have to change the way we do marketing. If we then have a look, if you just look at normal figures, this is, I spend quite some time every year in China, and 64% of the Chinese users have a mobile ad blocker. So it's even more than it is in Europe. If we're moving towards that, it's really, really difficult to reach these people. So then the next reflex we have, yes, let's stop doing advertising. We're going to do personalization of advertising. We're going to do really personal, relevant ads. But if you then look at our track record as marketeers right now, what people are saying, 50% is saying they get emailed too often by a brand, 27% says emails are too wordy or poorly written, 24% says an offer that makes it clear that the market's data about me is wrong. So yes, we're saying we're going to relevance personalization, but usually we screw up. And this screwing up, in my fear, it gets only worse in the next couple of years. If we even not are able to send relevant emails, but alone if we start doing complex AI stuff, if we start sending people WhatsApp messages, Facebook Messenger, do augmented reality, now we screw up an email, we screw even more up when we scale that to all these new technology platforms. And I love this quote by Jeffrey Hammerberg. He says, the best mind of a generation is thinking about how to make people click ads. That sucks. Florian opened this morning with showing more things they're doing at Facebook, but still a lot of people within Facebook are not thinking about how they can improve people's lives. They're really about how can people click more ads and view more of these ads, which is really, really bad. And also, if we're just honest and look at our customer behavior and look what they're doing, and this is just an example, and Mark will be talking about travel insurance and insurance in general later, but if you just, for example, look at how we look for travel insurance, the key decision parties there are comparison websites, search engines, and word of mouth. So people look for comparison websites, not for advertising, search engines, not for advertising. And why they do a return? Because they had a great brand experience, tell their friends, and or return to that. So these are the key things, not the advertising stuff we often do. So to that point, brands, and that's just the same like humans, are defined by what they do, not what they say. And just to give you a few examples from my daily life, how we screw up. So, like I said, I travel a lot. By now I had close to 500 bookings via Booking.com, and still every time when I check in a hotel, they still ask for my contact details. And of course I understand these are two different companies, but it's really, really hard for me to understand as a customer that with close to 500 bookings, so even more than 500 nights, they still don't know my contact details and they still haven't fixed it. Even worse, is there someone working here at the Intercontinental Hotel Group or Crown Plaza Holiday Inn? Okay, that's good. So I spend a lot of time in these places. I'm platinum member at IHG, and 70% of my check-ins had wrong contact details. So they either said my country is United Kingdom, it's obviously not, it's the Netherlands or Belgium. My last name is De Maagt, no, there's a space in between. My company name was IHG Reimbursables, there's no way that is my company name. And my address was my first name, no. So it's really, really hard to understand if you're really into platinum members and loyalty and stuff like that, that you even don't get my contact details right in 70% of the time. Also, and I love KLM, and it's one of the best companies ever to work for, but I screw up big time as well. So I had close to 70 flights with KLM this year alone, and every single time when I get home, I get a welcome home email. So I had over 30 welcome home emails this year. And I really appreciate the effort welcoming me home as KLM, but having 30 welcome home emails is just too much, really. So for me, the question is, and also towards the email team there, I think it's really, really personal, but not so relevant. So please, can we get rid of this irrelevance? Can we just filter out that someone has just maximum of 5 emails? And for me, that's quite telling, because usually when we get to know more about our customers, we're sending them more emails. In the case of KLM, if you know you have kids, you get a kids email. If you're a loyalty member, you get a frequent flyer email. If you also like golf, you get also the golf email. The basic reflex is sending more communications rather than doing less communications, which is really, really intriguing for me. And lastly, this is a great startup well, it's not a startup, it's a huge company in the Netherlands called Coolblue. They're amazingly customer-centric, and they're a fantastic company to watch. But there, if you go to the website and then go to another website, and in this case I was interested in sound stuff, I know why they are doing it, but this is just a bit too much in seducing me to buy this sound equipment. So I think we all understand why, and we can laugh about it, but still many of the companies who work for do this kind of stuff. And in this thinking and how we can improve stuff, 2010 was really, really a pivotal year for me personally. In 2010, I started working for an advertising agency, and we got to work for Nike, which is, when you're young, even younger than I am now, is one of your dream clients. And the question from Nike was, how can we make running unboring? At that time, running was really, really boring. Old people would do it. People in not so flashy clothes, really boring clothing. So how can we make it cooler? So we thought, wouldn't it be awesome if we can do figure running? So if you can do really, really cool routes through a city. So for example, if you can run through Antwerp and make the head of a dog, or run through Amsterdam and make a skull, or make the Nike logo, or do whatever. And the cool thing about this is twofold. So one, to run a dog like this, you have to run a different route than you would normally do. Also, running a dog takes you more than 12 kilometers, which is more than average people would actually run. So what we could see from the Nike Plus data, that we actually, by doing this campaign and seducing people to run these cool figures on top of a city, people ran different routes than we do before, and also ran further than actually did before. So I thought it was an amazing campaign. We had like pop-up stores and all the things. It was fantastic. We won a lot of awards, so then you're happy as a young advertising guy as well. So it was fantastic. So then we got on the radar of KLM Royal Airlines, and they asked us, can you do something with location data? So this was still 2010, and then this is what we did. And hopefully it works.
Welcome to KLM Surprise. Armed with our social media toolkit, our little experiment began. First job, find KLM passengers who had checked into their flight via one of KLM's 4 square locations or left a message through Twitter. Second job, search their social profiles. Get to know them as well as you can to think of a personalized gift. Third job, hunt them down and deliver the gift. After several weeks of handing out little gifts, a few things became apparent. In the age of social media, doing something that creates a real smile on somebody's face is much cooler than attaching a smiley face. But most importantly, it seemed that indeed an airline could use social media to both surprise and make a small difference to a passenger's day. And we're not just guessing, we know, because they told us, and their friends, massively.
Do you like it? Do you hate it? Who hates it? I'm Dutch, so I can take any critic. I'm totally fine with it. I personally hate it by now for several reasons. And the key moment within this campaign when I started to hate the campaign was, I think, 2 weeks in the campaign when we got a Twitter message from one of the KLM customers. He said, "Wow, I love this campaign, but where is my suitcase?" And that was, for me, exactly the point there. So yes, we're doing a really, really cool campaign. Surprising our customers is fantastic. We're doing this in a limited amount of time. But yes, in the meanwhile, we're losing people's suitcases. So how can we make this a short campaign while, on the other hand, we're totally screwing up what we're doing towards our customers? And it really started, it changed the way within KLM how we do stuff. And that's why things like the nachtjeslampje and other things came across. But it also changed my thinking. So combined with my personal experience where brands screw up, but also in my personal experience what I did in advertising, I started to think, okay, we have to do things differently. It also made me think, what is a useful brand? And I just collect a lot of cases. And I think it was really aptly presented this morning by Florian, who was explaining all these useful brand experience. They aren't only about digital. It's really often offline stuff, just because you can smell, feel, and other stuff. So just a small example, because I travel a lot, I stay a lot in hotels, and recently I stayed at Citizen M, which is a really cool hotel chain all throughout the world. And I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I had to finish some presentations. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, I went to the bar and asked for a coffee. And usually it's quite hard in a hotel to get a coffee before, let's say, 7. So, for example, here in Munich, we're staying in an amazing hotel, amazing breakfast, but they're only open at 7 o'clock, and exactly at 7 o'clock, obviously, because they're German. Sorry. So I was there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I asked the barista, so can I have a coffee, please? thinking he would say no. And he said, of course you can have a coffee. And here, this coffee is free, it's on me, because it's the first coffee of the day. And I was like, whoa. At first, there's a guy who understands I really, really need my caffeine now, and it's just giving away. It's only 50 cents or 25 cents, and I'm not sure what a coffee costs for them. But just a small gesture that for me, getting a free coffee and understanding that I don't like getting up at 5 in the morning and working, really, really made my day. It's a really, really small intervention. It's a really, really small experience element. This is probably one of the best experiences I had, and it's with a competing airline. So I was flying from Amsterdam to London to Singapore to Sydney to Auckland to do a presentation there. So my logistics were, let's say, suboptimal. And I was jet lagged, and the gauge change was difficult. I was grumpy, and I entered the plane, and there was a staff member standing there called Drew, and he was looking through boarding pass, and he asked me, "What is your name?" I said, "Paul." "Yeah, Paul. Okay, perfect. Sit down." Blah blah. And we took off. And at some point, when people were free to walk through the plane, Drew was walking through the aisle and saying, "Hey Frank, how are you doing? Hey Barry, everything okay? Hey Paul, good to see you again." And it just by remembering some of the names on the boarding pass, he totally made it feel like it was his own pub, like he owned the place. And here again, it's a really, really simple, it's an offline intervention you do, but it completely changed my flight. And also my grumpiness was gone instantly. It's a really, really small offline intervention you're doing there. Then I'm training for this year's Athens Marathon on 12th of November, and I love technology. I have like a Google Home at home. I use all this automation stuff. I have beacons in my home to automate stuff. So when I went to run a marathon, I bought a way too expensive watch. I think it's 700 euros to buy this watch, and it can do a lot of stuff you don't need. And one of the stuff it does you don't need is called performance condition. So what it does is based on your previous behavior and your heart rate, your strides, how fast you're walking, etc., it will give you a score in the first 5 minutes of your run between -20 and +20 in a prediction how well you will be performing in this specific time, which is quite insightful. But it also does make me think it's amazing that I actually can do this, and it's amazing that it's actually quite accurate. But when I start running the marathon the 12th of November, do I really, really want to know what my performance condition is at the moment? So let's say if I start running the marathon and my score is -10, then I have 42 kilometers to cope with the fact that it won't be a good marathon. So here again, we can do a lot of things with technology, but do you want to? And because I didn't know what to do with it, I hired, and this is a true story, and sorry it's in Dutch, because I hired my personal data analyst. And I wasn't even aware there is something like that, but there's a guy in Belgium, he hires himself as a personal data analyst for sports. So he connects to all your Garmin accounts, to your Strava accounts, to other stuff, he crunches the data and then gives you advice. So he would say things like, hey Paul, you did a good run today, your heartbeat is a bit too high, but probably it's because you were ill. Just a small question, when you're doing longer runs, you're speeding up towards the end, why are you doing this? So he's just looking through my data, and via WhatsApp is coaching me on my specific performance data, which is really, really cool, and a service that actually a brand could be offering. And now it might be an anomaly, it might be something really, really strange, but it might be really, really common, like you have a personal, or like a data analyst within your company, just to have a personal data analyst to analyzing your data. And finally, getting there, also, it started with marketing and advertising, but often the solutions are not marketing or advertising solution. Who knows this example from the Houston airport? No? Ah, perfect, so I can explain it. So this is a really, really cool story. So Houston airport had a lot of trouble because people were complaining they had to wait too long when they were picking up their luggage. So they asked the marketing department, what can we do with it? So they printed leaflets, they had an app, they explained it, they even had some moment they had an experiment where they asked people in the airplane to tell customers, okay, be aware that it can take a bit longer, and still people kept complaining. So then someone said, so what if we won't let people wait just by giving them a detour through the airport? So letting them, instead of letting them wait for 10 minutes, we just send them to some other halls for 10 minutes, and then they arrive at the luggage. So when they started to do that, they didn't have any complaints after that. So what I loved about this example is that often we marketeers, when we get a problem, we try to solve this with our marketing tool set. But often our marketing toolset is not the best solution to these kind of problems. In this case, it's sending people on a detour, which is completely counterintuitive for a lot of things we're doing, but actually solves the problem in this. And here, again, a nice quote. I suppose it's tempting if the only tool you have is a hammer to treat everything as we're a nail. I think we all know this, because we're marketeers, because we're digital specialists, if we get a problem, we often think of it in these kind of solutions. So then again, what is useful brand experience? The starting point of the conference was this. So can we, through wearable and marketing strategy, help people? And for me, it's not too much framing ourselves to be into marketing first. For me, it's really not thinking marketing first, it's about human first and solution first. So let's not make marketing thinking or advertising thinking the starting point of these solutions. Let's just make helping people the starting point of these solutions. And I'm not the best copywriter, so there will be people who can rephrase this in way better and more cool ways, but please let this be the starting point. So then the question is, so what is our job to be done? For me, there are two questions. What frictions can we take away? What irrelevance can we take away from our people's lives? But also, what delighters can we create to actually make people's lives more enjoyable? And when it comes to friction, I talked about, for example, the KLM example where they send me 30 emails in 1 year. It doesn't make any sense. Get rid of this irrelevance. And now there's a really stupid thing we're doing with KLM. I often have a same-day return, so I would fly from Amsterdam to Paris and then come back, and still KLM offers me hotels. But it doesn't make any sense. I'm flying back the same day, so why would I ever book a hotel? That's just irrelevant, so please get rid of this friction and irrelevance. So what is this? If you're just looking at customer behavior, and there are many different ways to do this, through customer journey mapping, to just looking at their mobile behavior, the times that they take their mobile phones 150 times per day. Google believes it's in these micro moments, so there's really specific tasks you're executing when you're taking your mobile phone. What can we do there? And the question there is also what basic needs, so what friction can we take away and what delighters there are. And the interesting thing about technology, and why I'm also a bit skeptical sometimes about technology, is that often technology starts at a delighter and then we get used to it and it's quite normal. In the case of KLM, when we started out in 2010, when I started working with them, we started our social media customer service. And we had like 10 questions per day, and we had 3 people working on social media customer service. Over the years, expectations shifted from just being present on social media to reply within 2 hours, to reply within 1 hour, to reply within 30 minutes, to reply within 5 minutes. And now sometimes we even get emails or Twitter messages from people asking, so KLM is really, really cool, but you forgot my birthday. Why didn't you surprise me on the flight? So apparently people expect KLM to have like a pile of champagne or cakes for them waiting to surprise them on the airplane. And it's not a bad thing, it's just expectations getting more and more normal. Also look for where the impact is made. I give an example of the travel insurance. Really look the journey people are making and what the impact things there is. Is it word of mouth? Is it search engine? Is it comparison websites? Are there other things you have to do in intervention? What's also really, really important is obsessive use of testing. This is my colleague Wilbert. And he's spending quite some of his time actually at the airport testing new prototypes of, in this case, the KLM app. So he will either go with pencil and paper, or just mock-ups on mobile phones, just to check with people, do you think this makes sense? Is it logical? Where is the flow? Okay, where is it wrong? Rather than shipping a finalized product and then finding out how it works. So really, really obsessive use of testing, and just go out and people in the streets and test stuff you're doing. And that is truly a mix of disciplines. It's not only a marketing discipline, it's not only the advertising discipline, but it's really, really throughout your organization. And so what are kind of cool interventions I like? So what is the direction? And I love experimenting, and I also love experimenting on my wife and kids. So these are 2 examples. So one of the problems I have, one of the friction, is that I totally forgot how long my wife and I are together. So what would happen is we would be spending dinner with some other couple, and then at some point the unavoidable question becomes, how long have you been together? And usually, me personally, other men obviously not, but me personally, I usually stumble and say something like 6 years, something like that, and my wife would have to correct me, no, it's 8 years and so many days. So I want to get rid of this problem. So what I did, I created the Google Sheets, and it automatically catches the current date. It catches the date of when we were married, when our first kid was born, when our second kid was born, when I met my wife, and when we got into a relationship. I check it before we have dinner with others. So then when they ask me, so how long have you been together, I can casually say, Well, do you mean when we met, or do you want to know how long we've been in a relationship? Because we have been in a relationship for 2,911 days, and you. So this is a small intervention for me where I can do, it's really easy, I can copy paste and you can use it as well. So this is a small intervention where indeed I use technology, but solve a customer problem, in this case my wife as my customer, solve a customer problem. Another problem I often have is the shoot I don't know what to buy for my wife problem. So because I work too much, I spend too little time at home and often I'm late or miss a flight or do whatever. And then I screw up and then I feel I have to buy her a present. And after the 20 times I did this, and I came home with red flowers, red roses, my wife said, red roses again. So I knew I had to fix this problem. So what I did, we have a Google Home at home, and I have a special shopping list for things she likes. So every time when she tells me I would like this or that product, I instantly buy it, and I put it in a box in my office. So the next time when I screw up, and my basic reflex would be buying flowers or would be buying candy, or which is a basic reflex, I just get something out of the box, wrap it in a paper, and it'll be like, here's the book you loved. And here again, it's a small thing where I use technology to solve a customer problem. In this case, as I always am late and don't know what to buy. So another thing, what's an amazing place to experiment is a company called Surprise Me. And what Surprise Me does, I work there doing branding and marketing and product. They really believe that we have to bring spontaneity back in travel, because usually if we start booking stuff, you spend a lot of time on booking.com, you spend a lot of time on Kayak and comparison website, and then do Hansa.com and then KLM.com and then back to booking, and then, well, it's a hassle. So their idea was, can we unhassle that? Can we make it just cool? So what they do is, you go to the website, you buy a ticket, and only at the airport you discover where you'll be going. And this is quite interesting. So they make spontaneous again. And this is how it looks when people at the airport discover where they're going.
Ja? Wat? Ik moet terug zijn! Polle! Oh my god, leuk! Ja! Laat
Interesting to see that actually the people traveling with Surprise Me are usually the happiest people at the airport. Because the other people are waiting at the gate and are just bored. And these are the people who just discovered they're going to Warsaw or to go to Barcelona or whatever, and they're calling their friends, yeah, we're going to Barcelona. Where do you have to go in Barcelona? So that's really, really cool to see. And they're really, really obsessive about data. So they measure everything. They now had over 60,000 customers. They have an average net promoter score. Everybody is aware of the net promoter score? Yes? Okay, perfect. So they have an average net promoter score of 62, and they keep looking for interventions how they can improve. They will actually, if you don't tell anyone, they will be launching in March in Germany, and if you have any ideas, please contact me after. They're looking for cool partners here. So they start doing a lot of customer research mapping. They're doing a lot of research with their customers. And one of the things, for example, is that they invite their customers in. So this is Alex. Alex is the most obsessive Surprise Me user ever. He's been on trips, when I made the slide 8 times, but now I think it's 10 times he went on holiday with us. And the question was, so why do I book with Surprise? Because it feels like my friends are booking. They're doing a personalized stuff. They try to do something cool with it. But it also puts a lot of pressure on the company to look for these cool interventions. So one of the things, at some point we were in a brainstorm, and the head of marketing, Jasper, he told, wouldn't it be awesome if we sent handwritten cards to our customers? So when they return from the trip, there will be a handwritten welcome home card waiting for them. And I was like, no, I think it's a horrible idea, because then we have to write 60,000 handwritten cards. So let's not do that. But then, of course, we have a test and learn experience there. So we did it with 2,000 people. 1,000 did get a card, 1,000 didn't get a card. And it turned out that people who get a handwritten welcome home card have an 8 points higher net promoter score than people who don't. So the average net promoter score of people getting a welcome home card is 70. The normal people is 62, which is a huge difference. So now, from time to time, we'll be sitting at the desk there writing welcome home cards. And it's a really digital way of just testing, learning, and looking for these right interventions. And also there is a backend system that tries to give superpowers to the people in the team. So it's a really, really young team trying to do personalized trips. It's really, really difficult. So we have some really, really stupid technology stuff in place. So just a checklist to make sure that we don't forget stuff. But the coolest thing is in the algorithm behind it. It's called Luigi. And the algorithm is mainly built to avoid stupid mistakes. So for example, if you, ma'am, would be traveling with Surprise Me, and do you have a husband or a friend? Okay, your husband would be going with his friends as well. We avoid that you go to the same destination. So if you have been to Barcelona, your husband won't go to Barcelona as well. Also, we make sure you don't go to Barcelona twice, for example. Another thing we try to avoid is the fact, because we now have 60,000 travelers, so sometimes we have close to 50 people traveling on the same day, to avoid that they're all on the same flight. So if there are more than 6 people on the same flight, we go to another flight to make sure you're not at the gate like, so everyone is on Surprise Me trip here. That's not the surprise, is it? Another thing also we try to do now is to avoid stuff. So for example, we noticed that younger women don't like to go to Zagreb in winter because they felt unsafe. We saw from the Net Promoter Score. So the algorithm filters Zagreb out when people are under a specific age. So it's a really, really smart algorithm that helps our agents just to be even more personal and relevant. So I think that's the key point for me here. It's not about technology. It's not about marketing. It's not about advertising. It is putting stuff human first and solution first. It's really difficult to achieve this. It's really about experimenting, but one of the key things for me is to avoiding stupid stuff. And this is my last example before I close my presentation. This is the official manual by the Office of Strategic Services, which is the organization that existed before it became the CIA, and still on the CIA website. This is a true story, and it's the official guideline how to sabotage countries in Europe. And it was made in 1944, and there are different chapters on how you can create bombs from household materials, but the coolest chapter is how you can sabotage companies. So there's one chapter on how you can sabotage companies. And just some quotes. When possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make the committees as large as possible, never less than 5. Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Advocate caution, be reasonable, and urge your fellow conferees to be reasonable and avoid haste, which might result in impairments or difficulties later on. For me, I'm not sure about your companies, but I often encounter this with my clients. So please let us not be the kind of companies that are actually the CIA thought this is the best way to sabotage companies. So to summarize, I think we're screwing up big time. There's a lot of changes we need to do in advertising and marketing. Look for the gaps, not only to lie, but also to take away friction. Solve it, whatever the tool is, whether it's marketing or advertising, so do acts, not ads. Thank you so much.